Hi, everybody. So, over the last few days, I was reading this book, How to Avoid a Climate Disaster by Bill Gates, and I thought I make a video on the concept of power density. The concept of power density is not new, but it is an important concept to understand if you want to really understand why fossil fuel is so cheap, so relevant, so sought after when it comes to power generation. So let's get started. So one of the concepts that we need to understand first, or one of the ideas that we need to understand first, is how much power we usually consume in the entire world. The author provides that information inside this book, and I really encourage you to read through that. The author shows that we consume about 5,000 gigawatts of power. What is 5,000 gigawatts? Just to put things into perspective, as the author provided that perspective as well, think of 5,000 gigawatt means 5,000 billions watts. Think about the light bulb that is powering your room right now. Maybe it is a 40-watt bulb. So 40 watt versus 5,000 billion watts. Okay, as you are thinking about that, let's come to the understanding that that 2/3 of the power that is produced today actually comes from fossil fuel sources, meaning coal, natural gas, oil, and so on. And why is that? Why fossil fuel is relied upon for such a huge portion of today's power generation? And that's why I have to tell you that we should all understand this concept of power density. What is power density? Power density is nothing but comparing the output produced versus the land, or for that matter ocean, that you would need to produce that much power. So let's say if you read through the book on page 58, the author has a very nice simple table that compares and that shows you the power density watts per square meter between fossil fuel, nuclear, hydropower, solar, hydropower, wind, and biomass. For that matter, fossil fuel has the power density between 500 to 10,000 watts per square meter. If you go down through the list, nuclear has a power density of 500, so the lower range starts at 500 watts per square meter. Higher range though goes up to 1,000 watts per square meter, meaning it's one order of magnitude lower than fossil fuel sources. If you go down through the list, the next comes solar, which goes from 5 to 20 watts per square meter. Then comes hydropower, which goes from 5 to 50 watts per square meter. Then comes wind, which goes from 1 to 2 watts per square meter. And then is biomass, which goes for less than 1 watts per square meter. So let's put things into perspective. Again, let's go back to that example of light bulb. If you have a 40-watt light bulb, to produce that 40 watt from a biomass source, you might need at least 40 square meter of land, because it can only produce less than 1 watt per square meter. If you are going after a wind source, then you might need, if you even take the higher range, which is 2 watts per square meter, at least 20 square meters of land, or for that matter ocean, because you might be able to install your windmill on ocean to produce and power your room. If you go up the list, if you go after for that matter hydro, you might be able to produce within 1 square meter the power that you need to light your room with a 40-watt light bulb. So as you can see, that fossil fuel really is relevant because it can provide us the power so with such a small footprint of land or ocean for that matter. And it also makes the case for fossil fuel to remain relevant, to be able to go from one location where you may be producing it to the location where you need to actually consume it, to burn, to produce steam, to run a turbine, and to produce electricity and supply to your city, to your neighborhood. And that is why the author says that many like power plants that are being built today are fossil fuel based power plants. Especially if you go in the developing world, you will see the power plants being built are based on either coal or natural gas for the most part. And the interesting part is, if you have to think about how quickly you can actually ramp up production, it is the natural gas or other fossil fuel based power that you can actually ramp up production when you need it the most. Let's say during an emergency, during an outage, when there's a power surge, because wind, solar, and everything else, it's intermittent. It cannot be dependent all the time. So what I'm trying to point out, I'm not saying that we cannot move away from fossil fuel. What I'm trying to say here is fossil fuel is relevant because fossil fuel really has a very low power density. See you next time. And before I leave, please read this book. It's an excellent book to go through. It provides some information that you will, whether you are a climate skeptic or a climate change convert, I think it has something for everyone for consideration, and provides the food for thought in simple, succinct, and relevant way.